Hi, this is Jason Liggett, and I will be reading a reading assignment out loud. It's called Studying in Political Science with Professor Jason Liggett. So I will begin. The first thing I want to describe is the picture that comes along with the reading, which is a circle with arrows that starts with the theory, and we use the theory to make a prediction. So from theory, we go to prediction. A prediction is a design, an experiment to test the prediction. So we want to think about the steps needed based on our theory. So if we have a theory that the Earth is flat, then we would need to design an experiment to test our prediction. Our prediction being that if we were to go into the ocean, we will go there nonstop. It will never change until we get to the very end of the flat Earth, and then we will fall off. Then we go from prediction to experiment. We'll perform that experiment, meaning we get on a boat and we sail around the world, and we find our observation that we were incorrect in our prediction, that we did not fall off the Earth. So we need to modify our theory or create a new theory. Okay, so I'm beginning reading now. So how do I do this studying thing at the college level without a roadmap? Well, if you want to be a political scientist, even if you had never intended to, here you are, an actual scientist. A lot of what higher education is really learning how to think, not what to think. Unlike much of what you learned in K through 12, which was content-based and memorization, we are now exploring and deconstructing. For example, you know that there is a president, and you have a general idea what the president does. But what makes a good president? What is the president allowed to do according to the Constitution? And does that matter? How you answer these questions largely determines whether you are ready to be a critical thinker. Theory. At some point in your life, you have encountered a theory called the scientific method. This answer to all curious inquiry is a theory that dates back to the beginning of science itself. The first universal library in Alexandria, Egypt, evidences the desire to store the human experience of trial and error. So one attacks a line of reasoning in what many writing teachers would call the body, or evidence that you present to support your theory. After you have presented a question, for example, why do I exist? The infinite number of trains of thought or points of view suggests that there is no one truth, nor one correct line of reasoning. Another way of saying this, one man's truth is another man's lie, or the difference between a criminal and a law enforcement officer is who has the gun. Often students call my attention to conspiracy theories or anti-government propaganda. While there is great entertainment in the conversations that center around the romantic ideals of what might have happened at this historical event or to this powerful leader, the evidence in the body or the support suggests most events are simply up to chance. For example, the simplest answer to, are there powerful forces that rule the world, is it depends on whom is winning at what time. To play into the myth is to prove it doesn't exist. I have taken you to this point to model how logical reasoning plays a crucial role in critical thinking. You must try to build a model based on a hypothesis so that it can be tested. An example would be, I exist because I was born. Once born, my choices changed to exist or not to exist. I chose to exist and then was presented infinite choices, but those choices to narrow all choices to the preferable choices. In other words, I saw a set of choices and I made choices to limit that set of choices to those that I prefer. From those many choices, a choice was made, I made the choice, and a choice was not made. In other words, I choose to make some choices, but I choose not to make other choices. The choice, therefore, is the choice to choose or not to choose. If you don't understand this the first time, don't feel bad. It's something that you'll want to practice over and over and over again. In other words, when I'm doing research, I choose to look at certain things and I ignore other things. Just because I find out answers to the questions that I choose, that doesn't mean that I explained the things that I didn't choose. The final piece will help you understand everything we've talked to so far, the preceding. Learning occurs best in groups. Some people have been known to say 2 heads are better than 1. When our ideas bounce back and forth, we improve our theory. It is like we are growing brains together. This is because you make choices and I make choices. And oftentimes the choices you make are not the choices I make, and so we're sharing information that we otherwise wouldn't have knowledge of. So the other serves as a check against our implicit bias. When others are encouraged to read, share, and criticize your theory or your work, you tend to be less critical of others and attempt to collaborate as opposed to compete with them. This leads to a faster awareness of issues, which then leads to a fuller understanding of complex problems. This then is why you approach life questions in government or politics with a critical point of view or voice, and always seek evidence to support or attack your theory, as well as examine the evidence of other people's theories. If you do this, you will make a fine political scientist.